Pastor Rick,
Yes.
welcome to another episode of Living by the Book. Amazingly, after last week's discussion on vaccines, we are still in operation. Haven't been shut down or canceled or.
That's right. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. my right shoulder is extremely sore this week for some. Just kidding. No, this week actually is kind of a special week. We're not really taking a question that someone might have and trying to answer it. This is more of a promo video. So we're going to promote something, but we think it will be to your interest.
Mm-hmm.
Next month in August, we're going to be doing a special church-wide equipping hour class. And the title
this Sunday, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up this week.
Yeah.
The class. The idea is that rather than having a bunch of classes that people choose, hopefully everyone will come to this class because we think it's something that the church as a whole needs to hear.
Right.
The title of the class is "Why Are We Here?" which is always a good question to ask. Every Sunday, there's probably someone asking themselves, "Why am I
here?
Why on earth am I here?" So it's a good question to answer. But we're trying to establish or clarify the link between ecclesiology, which is the doctrine of the church, and evangelism, which is outreach.
Right.
I think that evangelism is often viewed as kind of an individual activity that certain individuals do, particularly those that are just gifted evangelists, gifted at outreach. I think we forget that a critical part of what the church as a whole does as a body is evangelism. And we've been reiterating our vision for the church that Grace Bible Church would be a place where every single person is helping another believer follow Christ more, and a part of that
just
pathway.
Another.
Yeah, just another. Right. Not another believer, but another person. Right.
Because it could be pre-evangelistic.
Well, and that's kind of that's part of this class, right?
Yeah.
Is the first half of. It's funny that you corrected me because I'm the one that's supposed to know this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think of who I could blame for that, but there's really no one. So I'll just take it. We laid out the pathway of discipleship, and the first half is really about people that aren't in the church, unbelievers.
Right.
It's engaging the world, and then it's evangelizing.
Yeah.
The purpose of this class is kind of help see that the church as a whole. This is part of why we are here.
Yeah.
So just share a little bit maybe about. The thinking behind this class. The elders had conversations about it, why this was necessary, because there were other options on the table that would have been really helpful.
Yeah.
So just give people the behind the scenes about
It's
why
hard.
this class and convince them that they should be there.
Well, it's a hard decision because there are so many things that really the elders assess the church really needs.
Yeah.
And actually, all of the equipping hours are very carefully deliberated upon and decided upon as to what we're going to offer.
Right.
And so we want the equipping hours to be relevant and germane to not only where our church is, but where our church needs to be.
Right.
So the equipping hour generally should not by any be viewed as, just an option, an elective, something I can, give or take.
Yeah.
It's they're, just to keep harping on a pet peeve, they're far more essential than essential oils. So that might get a comment, but anyway.
We should have talked about essential oils on last week's episode.
Yeah, that's right.
That's when it would have really been appropriate.
But the elders, by design, when we crafted the equipping hour model, we have one occasion a year where we push aside all the other equipping hours and take an entire month to focus on something that the elders think is particularly needful for the church. Yeah. And that's what we've done. We've also identified 2 months where we don't have any equipping hour, but emphasize fellowship.
Yeah.
And that's the month of July and the month of December.
Right.
So those 2 months, we're focusing on fellowship. August every year is this singular equipping hour that is of particular concern to the elders in terms of what we are to do. So that's how that has come about. And that's going to be an annual thing every August. The elders are going to be praying through the year to determine what that August offering will be.
Yeah.
And this year it's the why we are here, and it's a result of converging stimuli that have brought us to the persuasion that this is what we need to do. Originally, the stimuli was the the woeful lack or the hole that seemed to exist in our ecclesiology as a church as we were going through coronavirus.
Yeah.
The shutdown and the absentia from the church that was forced upon us and then elected by some of us caused us to go back and evaluate how essential is the church?
Right.
How core is the church to our existence?
And not just the church, but how essential, how essential is it in each individual's life?
Right.
Like how essential is the gathering together?
Right.
Not just this ethereal idea of church, but like the physical church together.
Right. And, the assembly of the church, and we addressed it last summer in a series of messages on the value of the church, why I love the church, those kind of things. And we did that. And I think it helped. It clarified for many the essential nature of the church, that of all the essential services that the state claimed were necessary, outstripping all of them is the church.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not recognized by the state.
Right.
But by those who know God and who are part of the church, we come to that awareness. And so there's a need for us to continually advocate for and teach the essential nature of the church and its necessity in every person's vitality spiritually. That you are not going to have spiritual vitality independently of the assembly of the church.
Right.
You're just not. Whatever vitality you may have independently of the church, it is woefully lacking compared to what it would be if you were part of the church.
Well, it could be what it should be. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one of the stimuli for this. The other stimuli was a message that was preached several months ago out of Luke, where it talked about the parable of the minas and the identification of the mina is the gospel that we have the opportunity to share with others and so on, and evangelizing, doing the work that the master left us to do, which is that parable, to put this money to work, these minas to work. And we compared it in the explanation of the parable to the gospel that we are to put to work in evangelizing the lost.
Right. And it was all about that stewardship of what we've been given.
Of the gospel, particularly. And whether or not we are utilizing gospel. And the one who had the one mina that was condemned by the master is the one who grabbed it and said, "It's mine. I have my mina. That's all I need. And I don't care about putting it to work and having it produce, reproduce, and produce more mina." Right. So we talked about how that was the individual who has the gospel, makes a profession of faith, but doesn't share their faith, doesn't do anything to communicate, the gospel. And so the elders, immediately after that message was preached at our next elders meeting, began to discuss, as a church, are we like the one who has the 10 minas, the 5 minas, or the 1 mina? And how are we to make sure that we are taking the investment that God has given to us in the gospel and putting it to work? And that's what drove the convergence of the essential nature of the church and the necessity of reaching out with the gospel. How those things work together. How are they wed? And how do they come together? And so we decided that we would take this month and address the issue of why are we here? Why are we here?
Totally.
So it has both the priority of our gathering and our scattering. So we gather together on the Lord's Day, then the rest of the week we scatter. Well, hopefully not the rest of the week, because we're going to come together in community groups. Independently of Sunday morning, we're going to come together as community groups. Many will come on Sunday night for more Bible teaching. And so you have multiple opportunities to regather throughout the week. But the Christian who sees the essence of the church as merely gathering and not the purposeful scattering to take the gospel message and put it to work among the lost, is analogous to the one slave that had one mine and buried it.
And one of the points we're trying to make is not just that that's a deficiency in evangelism or evangelistic zeal, but it's also a deficiency in their ecclesiology.
Right. Exactly.
That's kind of the key.
Because what our purpose is. It's been said, and I agree with it, that the one thing that we can do better here right now than we'll be able to do in heaven is evangelize.
Yeah, sure.
There's nobody in heaven that you're going to be able to evangelize.
It's not going to be a ripe harvest. That's
No. Yeah. Everybody's going to be saved.
Right. Right.
So the only time you can do it is now. And Jesus says, follow me. If you do, what's he going to do? Right. If we are actually following Christ, what is he going to do?
Right.
He is going to make us fishers of men.
Right.
So if we're not fishers of men, the only possible explanation, because he can't fail, and he's a God of his word, the only possible explanation, if we're not fishing for men, is that we're not following Christ. Now, that's harsh.
Yeah.
But what else do you do with it?
Right. Well, that's kind of,
what else can you do with that?
Right.
So in the convergence of these things, the assembly for the purpose of exalting God, and the edification of one another is to generate the heat in our affections for Christ that drive us out to tell other people about Christ because our conclusion is he's worthy of it.
Right.
It's interesting, and this is what I'm going to teach. I probably shouldn't go into it because people will say, I don't have to come that person. But I'm kicking it off.
Maybe I'll cut this video off like right before you get to the
right
conclusion.
now.
Just give it
I'm kicking it off on August the 1st with the discussion of the church. Why are we here? Is to exalt God. That's why we're here, and we gather to do that, and we scatter to do that. We gather to exalt God in terms of worship and fellowship and prayer, and we scatter to exalt God by evangelism and telling people about him. And the primary reason we do that is because we are so persuaded that he's worthy of more people worshiping him. It's not even the need of the lost.
Right. No,
that's primary.
Right.
I mean, it is a concern.
That's not the ultimate concern.
The ultimate concern is that more people, like God said, I have more people in the city, so go win them. Preach the gospel, because I have more people in the city. And that is those that he has chosen, that have yet to hear. So he's worthy. Let's go get him. There's an old song that says, oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing my great Redeemer's praise. It's an old hymn. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you only got one.
Yeah.
So you can bemoan that you only have one and you wish you had 1,000. Or you can win 1,000 people that can join you, and there's 1,000 tongues worshiping the Lord. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're really serious when you say, oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing my great Redeemer's praise, win 999 and your aspiration is fulfilled. Right? You had 1,000 tongues.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's why we evangelize.
Yeah.
And that springs out of our exaltation of God.
Yeah.
Our worship of God.
Yeah.
So evangelism springs out of worship.
Right.
Edification of others springs out of worship.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how our edification one. I think it's the one you're doing, right?
No, I'm closing it out.
That's
on
right.
the method of evangelism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we have 1 week on exaltation, which will concentrate on exaltation, but it's going to fuel the other weeks also.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to concentrate on exaltation the first week. Second week, we're going to concentrate on edification of one another, building up of the body of Christ, which is fueled by exaltation, but becomes a means by which the people of God bring glory to Christ by helping each other conform to Christ. So it's even the edification is a form of worship, exaltation. And then we have 3 weeks, because August is a 5-week month.
Right.
We'll have 3 weeks where we're talking about evangelization or evangelism, and how that still out of exaltation.
Right.
And it's still out of edification.
Right.
It's still involved
Right.
in
They all flow together. Yeah.
But it's with reference to engaging
Mm-hmm.
the lost
Mm-hmm.
and evangelizing them
Right.
with the gospel
Right.
in order that Christ might be honored.
Right. Bringing it
And
full circle. Yeah.
they might be saved.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whereby
Yep.
God is then glorified even more
Right.
for every act of redemption he
Right.
performs.
Right.
I mean, there is no more fervent driven worship than worship that is fueled by regeneration and watching people
Right.
saved.
Right.
The angels themselves
Yeah.
burst into rejoicing
Right. Right.
when one sinner repents.
Right.
And so when we see people being saved, there is a intensification of our adoration of God
Yeah.
and our desire to edify one another so that we might see more
Right.
coming
Right.
to know the Lord.
Right.
And so that is really what the elders feel the congregation of Grace Bible Church needs to not just hear, but embrace. And we're hoping that this equipping hour, which is what it is not just another preaching opportunity.
Right. It's not meant to just be head knowledge.
No.
It's equipping for
it's
action.
Equipping,
Yeah.
right. And so that the elders feel that this will be something that will greatly benefit the church.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be awesome. And so, church, we're doing this video to compel you to be there, to join us. Beginning this Sunday, 9 a.m. in the worship center. We're all going to be together. It's just going to be great. So we hope that you'll join us. There's no signups necessary. Just come, be there at 9 a.m. And participate in this and embrace this with us, because like you said, it goes back to this is part and parcel of what the church is meant to do in glorifying God in this world. And that's our desire. So we hope to see you there and enjoy. It's going to be great. Pastor Rick, see you next week.
All right.
All right. Take care.